First of all, for joining us. I really appreciate you guys taking time to do this. This is the Environment and Sustainability Mini Career Chat, just in case you're not in the right place. I hope you're in the right place. But we are very fortunate to have three accomplished, I would say, center alums in the field in different areas of this particular career. And I'll just go ahead and introduce each of them briefly. We have Richard Ackerman, and he is the Director of Climate Equity at Eastside Community Network. And where are you, Richard? What?
I'm in Detroit, Michigan.
Detroit, Michigan. Okay. And then we have Sara Beth, is it Freytag? Did I say that right? Freytag, okay.
You're very close.
Coordinator of Children and Youth Education at, tell me where you're at, because I don't even want to try to pronounce that.
Yeah, it's Hobcob Barony in South Carolina.
Okay, excellent. And then Grace Ann Martin, and she is Public Information and Outreach Coordinator at the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control. So with that, they're each going to talk a little bit about their career path, and at the end we'll take some questions. And would you like to go ahead and do you go by Ricky? It looks like Ricky. Okay.
Yeah.
Would you like to start us off, Ricky?
Sure. And so I graduated from Center in 2010, and my majors were in philosophy and government, and just the things I sort of harken back to from Center were that the ethical implications of environmental decision making is what really got me into the environmental sector. So philosophy is really the basis for which I jumped into this career path. And then I got really involved with the environmental club that was called ECO at the time. I don't know if that exists still. And I ended up interning my junior year for environmental lobbying group in DC. And then after I graduated, I joined the Peace Corps for 3 years. And I worked in Ecuador doing a variety of environmental education type work. So I did an eco club at a local high school that I ended up expanding to other schools in the area, but we worked on reforestation, organic gardening. I did some business development with local reserve owners, helping them sort of develop a sustainable business model. And then a lot of community outreach work with the local government around trash separation programs. So after 3 years there, I decided I wanted a firmer academic background in the environment. So I applied to grad programs, and I ended up at the University of Michigan School of Natural Resources and Environment. And my focus was on environmental policy. And so that was in Ann Arbor. And after I graduated, I was just looking for a job, which took a lot longer than I had anticipated, but that happens sometimes. And I ended up in Detroit at Eastside Community Network. And it's in a community-based organization it has true community-driven work. So we have residents on all of our boards, all of our committees. And what we really try to do is facilitate residents coming together with technical experts and making decisions for their community. And I started out focused on green stormwater infrastructure, which is a complicated topic if you're not familiar, but it's rain gardens is sort of the simple term for it. And as I've been here, my work has sort of grown. Our CEO is really passionate about a lot of environmental causes because the east side of Detroit has experienced a lot of environmental justice issues, a lot of environmental racism. Be it Chrysler and GM both have plants on the east side that pollute a lot into the air and don't do as much for the community as they might claim to. So we've gotten really active around these issues and are really trying to push for policies that promote a healthy community as well as, economically, socially, and environmentally. So we're really trying to advocate for policy change and bring that information to the residents so they can make good decisions about their elected officials and different bills that come up in the city council. So I've been here for almost 3 years now. And so I've kind of been a little all over the place, but it's been a fun ride so far, and I really enjoy being in where I am.
Thank you, Ricky. Grace, would you like to go next?
Sure. Excuse me. So I graduated from Center in 2015 with a biology major and chemistry minor. While I was at Center, I had the opportunity to work with Dr. DeMaranville in the chemistry department doing analytical chemistry, and was able to gain kind of a lab as well as research experience, which was really nice going into the job force. I also was able to take advantage of our internship opportunities around Kentucky. So I worked with Shaker Village in their preserve for a semester. So I was able to be exposed to a little bit to environmental education. I knew kind of going into my senior year in college that I was going to hold off on doing grad school. I love all different areas of science. I'll let someone have physics, but biology and chemistry are more of my passions. So I decided that I would just hold off and kind of go and gain some hands-on experience in the job force. So my senior year, I spent a lot of time applying to jobs. Unfortunately, I was not able to get a job before I graduated, so I did graduate Center without a job, but thankfully a couple months later, I found a job where I was able to work at a place called Barrier Island Environmental Education Program, which is on the coast of South Carolina, right outside of Charleston. There, I was able to teach environmental education to 1st through 12th grade students, so we focused on marine biology and environmental stewardship. And I did that for 2 seasons. And in between my 2 seasons, I was able to work with a place called Charleston Waterkeeper. There are a lot of different waterkeeper networks around the country, so it could be a soundkeeper or riverkeeper. But this focused on the health of rivers leading into the Charleston Harbor and eventually the ocean. And so with that internship, it was just for the summer, so I was able to learn about microplastics. I got to participate in outreach, as well as I helped design a survey to be sent out to the public about a single-use plastic bag ban, and just kind of see their willingness to participate in one. Once I was through my 2 seasons at Barrier Island, I then was able to get a seasonal 6-month position in the Outer Banks at the North Carolina Aquarium on Roanoke Island, where I served as an educator. So in that position, I still did environmental education and talked about marine biology, but it was in a lot bigger presentations, so I could have 400 people in a audience, and while trying to carry around alligators or snakes or sea turtles. So that was an adventure, but that was neat to get to learn how to communicate, I guess, harder or big scientific jargon to people of all different ages in one audience. So a great challenge, but rewarding at the same time. And then after my seasonal position was over, I was able to start working with South Carolina's Department of Health and Environmental Control. And so I've been there for the past 3 years, working as a public information and outreach coordinator. DHEC, as we like to call it, as the government likes to use a lot of different acronyms. DHEC focuses on promoting the health and promoting and protecting the health of citizens and the environment. So we have the health side, which would be doing more of the COVID response, and then the environmental side, which looks at how land, water, air is being used and affected by citizens and industry in South Carolina. So I work in a program that's specifically found in Aiken to help do environmental monitoring of the Savannah River site, which is a post-Cold War era nuclear production facility. So due to lack of environmental regulation, as well as nuclear testing in the 1950s, there's been a lot of chemicals that have been able to get into the environment. So we have our group, which goes out on a weekly as all the way up to a yearly basis to collect water, air, soil, sediment, game, milk, and fish to look for both radioactive and non-radioactive chemicals that have historically been present and could potentially be currently put into the environment. And then I'm the one who's in charge of taking all of our data that we collect and putting that into an annual report, as well as presenting it to the public. So I work a little bit with, I guess, the policy that Ricky would be trying to help create with his group. But I think Sara Beth can share a little bit more about her experience with the environmental education side of things. So I'll send it over to her.
Okay, thank you, Grace Ann.
All right, so yeah, it's all of us seem to have kind of this not random but multiple steps to where we are today, and I am definitely in that category as well. So I was a biology major, graduated in 2014, knew Grace Ann while we were there. So the thing that really spurred me on at Center, not only just from like learning about myself and growing as a person, was freshwater biology, which at that point was a Center term course. And I loved stream wading in January, which sounds ridiculous, but it was amazing. Changed in my life. And so I also took a herpetology course, the first one that was offered at Center, and thought that was cool. Didn't know what it was until I took it. And I also did a study abroad, which didn't think I would, but I did that in the Bahamas and did some research stuff, as well as did some research while at Center. So I really went in full science, and from Center went to University of Kentucky to get my master's in forestry, worked with stream salamander research in Eastern Kentucky, and really loved going outside and catching salamanders in the streams. But I really disliked pretty much everything else about my master's program. So I learned very quickly, well, not very quickly, but I learned that I would not go on and proceed to get a PhD, which was very hard for me because I just always assumed I would. And I think that's something that I want to share with people, is that you don't have to. None of us have our PhDs, and like that's okay. We're still really good at what we do. So that's something I realized through a mentorship, a mentor at UK, who also kind of encouraged me to go into the environmental education field, because that's really what I liked to do. So after that, I went to work at a nonprofit in Louisville, Kentucky, through an AmeriCorps Vista, which is kind of like Peace Corps, but just in America instead. So that was neat. I worked with some elementary schoolers and not only got to teach them, but I also wrote the curriculum about a variety of topics. And we sought to empower these at-risk youth through a superpower equation, which is going to be cheesy, but I'm going to teach it to you. It is my talent plus my heart equals my superpower. So that really helped me kind of further where I'm going. The idea is you figure out what your talent is, something you like to do or you're really good at. You use that towards your heart, which is something you care about. So for me, that could be the environment, it could be teaching kids, it could be whatever you care about. And then when you use those, use your talent to help that out, you're helping make the world a better place and are becoming a superhero. So I kind of took that momentum and got an internship in Ohio at an outdoor education center. So another kind of informal education opportunity, and I loved it. I was an intern called teacher naturalist. Yeah, I think that's what we were called. And we had some groups of kids who were like late elementary come for a couple of nights. We would have like a camp experience, and I got to really use some of my teaching skills and combine it with the science part that I love, and found it to be a very enriching experience. But unfortunately, as I grew older, I realized I need a stable job that has benefits. So I ended up here in South Carolina at Hobcob Barony. It's a 16,000 acre research reserve, preserved for perpetuity through a trust. So we have lots of different researchers, specifically partnering with Clemson and University of South Carolina, but others from around the world who come here to do research, and we also do education. So I'm the coordinator of children and youth education here at Hobcob Barony, and that means I do a lot of things. I take school field trips on through the forest or through the marsh, or we also have a lot of historical sites here, which is kind of neat because then I get to teach history and learn history and how land use matches human experience and how we interact with that. We do summer camps. I also do public programs, and I am able to do, I'm a facilitator for Project Learning Tree, which is a really cool environmental education curriculum. So kind of a varied way to get to where I am today, but I'm very happy where I am, and that center helped me kind of get to where I am.
Okay, all good information. Now questions and answers. We've got several students out there. This is your chance to ask some questions. So be sure to unmute yourself if you've got a question, and don't be shy. Nobody has a question? Okay, I'll kick it off if nobody has a question. So then y'all will get bored with my questions, and hopefully you'll come up with good questions. But what would be the single best piece of career advice that you would give to somebody who's interested in going into the environmental and sustainability field?
I can go first. So I don't know if y'all are familiar with President Roush. Depends on, I guess, when you were here or not at Center. But he is saying that really impacted me is do your best, be your best, no regrets. And for me, that's really important to highlight the do your best, be your best. So for me, like I mentioned, you know, I actually thought I'd come back to Center as a professor, and but that requires a PhD, and I realized that's not what I want to do. And so figuring out what was my path, what was my best, is really important. So for me, so I encourage you to like figure out what is it that you like to do, not necessarily what you think you should do or what others want you to do, but like find your niche and go with it.
Good.
I can kind of go off of Sara Beth. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say you don't have to answer if you don't want. I don't want to force you, but go ahead.
I guess going off of Sara Beth's, President Roush is very wise in that, and it's a great philosophy to take through life. And I think for me, you know, just trying to get out of your comfort zone. And I didn't expect myself to go into education. I mean, I had done public speaking in Center's classes because of presentations, but other than that, I had never had an opportunity to educate others. And so I was taken out of my comfort zone when an opportunity was available. And so I think I actually have two younger brothers who have attended Center too. One is currently there, Luke Martin. And so as both of my brothers have gone through the process of either searching for jobs or graduating Center, one of the things that I have mentioned to them is sometimes it's easier to figure out what you like for a job, but it's harder to figure out what you don't like in a job. And so being willing to take advantage of multiple opportunities to see what you don't like, I think is more important, because there are a lot of things that you will end up liking in your jobs. So for me, I do not really care to be on the computer screen all day. And unfortunately, that's what I'm having to do more right now because of COVID. But I know that there are a lot of other parts about my job that in a pre-COVID world that I really enjoyed, that made my job very worthwhile. So just realizing that you're going to have pros and cons, and seeing, do the cons outweigh the pros? And if so, then maybe you would want to change your position. And jobs are kind of like picking out a paint color, where you know, you can have a paint color for a couple years and then realize, I don't really care for this anymore, or maybe I need to go and grow a little bit more in my taste of paint colors, so I can easily change that. So you don't have to get stuck in one thing, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. And the one thing I'd say too is don't feel like it's ever too late to sort of pivot in what you're doing. I didn't take any science classes in undergrad. I had like AP credit, and I got really into philosophy in my government classes. And so, but I'm here in an environmental career, and I'm focused on community and policy, but you know, it's still very science-based. So don't let that discourage you if you haven't really pursued that interest, or if it arises after you graduate or something, because there's a lot of opportunities in the environmental field. And I'd also say, like, reach out to people. There's such a variety of positions, and like it's a growing realm, and I think in the near future it's going to be growing even more. So reach out to people. People love to talk about what they do and themselves, and just get a sense of their positions and what they're doing on a day-to-day like this, because I think, to me, that's like the best informer of where you want to be and what you want to be doing, because you just don't know until you're there. But if you can talk to people that are already there, then it kind of saves you some of that trial and error. And to Grace Ann's point too, you're going to do some things you don't like in the beginning, but getting your foot in the door and getting into those networks is always important, because that's really how you start to learn about those different opportunities.
Okay, any questions from the students? You guys, this is a good opportunity.
I have a quick question. First off, thank you guys for being here today. And my question is more for Sara Beth. I was wondering if you could touch a little bit on the AmeriCorps process, because I've kind of been looking into it, but I don't really know beyond like the program titles, like what the application process is, things like that.
Wow, okay, you're making me think back. Yeah, so I was in the AmeriCorps Vista, which is a 1-year in service. And so it's a little bit different from some of the other positions, which like the shorter or longer periods of time. And so the Vista helps impact kind of on the back end, though I was fortunate to be able to have direct service as well. And pretty much for any AmeriCorps thing that I'm familiar with, you kind of go through the organization. So you find whatever organization you want to work with, and then you can apply. I believe that they make their application through AmeriCorps, so it's kind of like you're applying to both at the same time. Make sure that you know what your stipend is and how long that you are dedicating to this program. But it's all the details I can think of right now. I highly recommend it, though. In the same lines what we were just talking about, it's a great way to get your foot in the door and try something new. See, you know, is this something that I want to do? And it's very inspiring to be in service to other people.
Thank you.
Yeah, hope that helped.
Any other questions?
I think there was one from James Pack, who said in the chat, he said, I'm a math major, but would love to contribute to environmental research. Any advice for how I could do that? And James, I actually do a lot of data management in my everyday work with statistics and biology go hand in hand. I know that that's a lot of times like our analysis or in looking at different jobs and like grad school programs, they'll ask you if you have, I guess, different, not database management, like I only took our analysis, so that's the only one that I know. But Sara Beth and Ricky may be able to speak on that a little bit more. But I know that a lot of science does involve statistics. Another thing that kind of deals with math is, especially with like climate change going on, there's a lot of mathematical projections that they use to say, oh, you know, in like 2030, they project this to happen. Or looking at maybe the rate of change of a population size of a group of animals, or how a stream is going to like change its shape over time. So those are all examples that, unfortunately, I haven't worked as much in the math side of science to give you personal experience, but I know that those are different ways that math can be incorporated in, I guess, environmental research. But if Sara Beth or Ricky would like to speak off of that, please feel free to.
Ricky probably has more of a firsthand than I do, if you want to chime in.
like yes and no, but I think Grace Ann sort of nailed it. It's really where it combines with biology, ecology, economics is a big part of what we're looking at. I think ecosystem services is a really interesting field. But yeah, so I think math in and of itself, it's as it relates to data analysis for sure, but I don't know. It's an interesting question I'm going to ponder now, but.
Be the philosopher.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the cool things about the environmental field is that it is so multidisciplinary. You know, you can combine philosophy, you can combine math, you can combine, you know, so many different things and be an environmentalist and work in sustainability. And there are lots of avenues. So, you know, check them out, try and explore, like they said earlier, because there are lots of different outlets for you. You just have to find them.
And I know within DHEC, or the Department of Health and Environmental Control, we have people who have math backgrounds, people who are accountants, who are lawyers, artists. I mean, we need graphic designers for different handouts that we provide for people. So even though it focuses on public health and environment, which you would think would need a science background, pretty much as long as you have a passion for something and you're willing to learn, I think that's going to take you really far. And, you know, it's great that you guys bring different backgrounds to a table to work on the same passion, because that will bring about change.
Before we go to the next question, I'm going to put in the chat box a link. I haven't taken it yet, but it's from Project Learning Tree and it's a green jobs quiz. I want to take it, but I haven't. And it's more, I think, for kids to see like what's out there, but it might be of some help to you guys. So feel free to check that out.
Okay, good. And I'll go ahead and read the next question. I saw that in the chat. Anna was asking what advice you guys would have for navigating the initial job search. I guess that could also include good internship possibilities, entry positions, that kind of thing. And then particularly for Grace Ann and Sara Beth with a science-oriented research background, how did you market yourself for the more educational job opportunities?
Ooh, that's a great question. I guess I can start. So initial job search is not fun, but Indeed is pretty much what I have used in the past, Indeed.com, to look for, you can navigate and look for specific jobs and areas. So like, for example, I wanted to stay in the Southeast, but you can also kind of cater your search to different things. I also recommend, there's some ecological listservs out there, and that is a great one because then lots of different organizations, you know, send posts about upcoming internships or graduate positions. So I highly recommend that. I think there's one from Texas A&M that's the one that I have used in the past. And for research background, marketing yourself, talk about those presentations that you do. That's really great, and how you are used to being around people and standing in front of people and telling them. Though it's very different, I've learned through teaching is more give and take, but still it's a good basis for starting and pumping yourself up and saying, look at what I can do.
Yeah, I'll go off of Sara Beth and say, you know, good listservs that I used, and you can actually like become, I guess, like follow them on Facebook. So your Facebook feed can be, I guess, have tons of them dropped on you. But conservationjobboard.com is a good one. The Texas A&M job board, that was one that I relied heavily on for both internships if you are an undergrad student or jobs if you're about to graduate. I applied to multiple government jobs, and you can go to, I think it's governmentjobs.gov. I can send it to Kirk and let him kind of send it out to you. But it's almost like the Common App in a way. So you just look for different jobs and you have one application and you can send off your information to all those. And in terms of selling yourself over the government job, and also in industry, one thing I realized is that they are very specific in the wording that you use when applying to government jobs as well as industry, because they filter out, they get so many applications that they filter out your application by the words that they've used in the job description. So if they say that you have like a research base that deals with like a specific thing in science, like try to word your thing to include like the exact wording that they have, but go into detail about it. And if you guys need any help with that, like feel free to reach out to me because I have some experience with the application process with that. Sara Beth kind of said this, like hit the nail on the head too. Hit the nail on the head. There we go. Where just selling your strong points of, you know, you guys do have great experience doing public speaking in class, and Center I don't think ever offered a public speaking class, but you guys got great experience just doing that in your senior seminars or in presentations that you had to do for labs. And also like in interviews or in cover letters saying that you're excited and willing to learn about a subject matter and what your passion is. And hopefully that will kind of give them more motivation to see, okay, this person would be excited to learn about something that they don't have in their background. And then if you have the opportunity to do internships or research experience, just trying to gain as much experience as possible, I think, is going to help you in the long run.
Good advice. And I was also going to add, you can make an appointment or come by the Career Center too. We have some additional resources we can use, like databases of where students have done previous internships and things like that. So we don't forget that too. Grace, you mentioned somebody contacting you. Would you be okay putting your email in the chat?
Sure. Yes.
I mean, you don't have to, but you know, that way they may forget to reach back out to me.
Yeah, and I'm happy to talk to anybody too, so I'll put mine there.
And Ricky, did you want to chime in on that at all, that particular question?
I think they did pretty well, but the only thing I'd add is repeating informational interviews that, like, a lot of times, for at least in my experience, like local jobs don't always end up on listservs or job boards as effectively. So meeting people and talking to them, you find out about jobs that you might not have seen. And it also opens up opportunities when jobs do come for those organizations. But don't ask people for jobs, but you know, ask them where to look for them and ask them about what they do, and it might open up opportunities.
And that's a good point. Like I always tell students, just ask for information, and if they have a job opening, they'll probably let you know. So I think that's really, really good advice. For the sake of time, we're going to have to shove off. I thank you so much for joining us, guys. This is great information, and we really appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, take care.
Thank you, Kirk.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.